Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Zach and Jay Hard here.
How's it going, guys?
JR back in action. He's been missing for a little while. Some of you guys have been wondering, where is JR? Well, he's still here, I can assure you. He's just been working hard behind the counter. So we got an opportunity. We got another video for you guys, obviously. And today, JR, we're comparing rests.
Yep. So the two we're comparing are limb-driven rests. We're going to have the ratchet from Ripcord and the Hamskea Epsilon.
So both obviously great options, but we want to kind of compare the difference between the two of them and see, one, we're going to mount them up for you guys. We're going to shoot them both through paper, see how they perform, and kind of look at the pros and cons to each of them. So we're going to get started. JR's obviously got this nice Prime RVX 2, or excuse me, RVX 2, this year's bow from Prime. Going to get it set up. And when we set these up, they're both going to be set up the same exact way. So we're going to set them up 13/16 from the riser, make sure everything's nice and level on them, get a knock set and a D-loop put on there. And we're going to shoot this Easton Sonic 6.0 through both of them. Yep. So this is a arrow JR just built up. This is a 6mm shaft from Easton. It weighs
470 grains. I've got the 75 grain brass in there with a 100 grain field point.
So we're going to see how it performs, how both of them shoot through paper. I think they're both good.
Right. They've
both been very popular for us this year.
Yes, they have been. So Ripcord is a new rest that came out, as you guys should all know, for this year. It's got that ratchet system, which is really nice. So if you have any take up on your launcher, you can just use that to ratchet and keep that take up. So I really love that feature on it. And then you have a couple different options for mounting it. You have a hard mount. You have the
IMS system.
IMS, yep. Had a brain fart there. And you also have micro-adjust or non-micro-adjustable options as well. So plenty of different options for that.
Probably for us, our most popular rest, I'd say that we've actually sold, and probably because we've had it a little bit longer, is the Hamskea stuff.
Yes.
As far as drop-away rests go. One, just really, really bulletproof. But this rest came out this year, and it's been incredibly popular. Yeah,
it's done very well for us. So these are by far our two best-selling rests that we carry. So I'm just going through and getting my knock sets set up.
And we're actually got this bow set up at 29.5 inches.
Correct.
So this bow goes to 30 inches. We got a number 2 mod on it from Prime on their core cam system. So we'll be shooting at 29.5 inches. And seeing how quick and easily we can get this thing tuned up, shoot a bullet hole through paper.
Yep. So as I've mentioned before with my knock sets, there's plenty of different ways you can do it. What I like to do is wrap it around my main string like 3 times, and then I'll feed it back through it. So it's making almost more like a friction knot to keep it there in place. Makes it more expeditious to get your knock set set up instead of doing overhand knots back and forth. And generally speaking, as long as you have it tied correctly, it's not going to move on you either. So that's the way I like to tie mine.
Yeah, the great thing about a knock set too is that reference point you have whenever you need to replace your D-loop.
Yep.
So if you have to replace your D-loop in a bind, you don't have to re-level everything. You can easily have that reference point and put that new D-loop on. Because some people go through D-loops pretty quick, depending on the rest that they're, or excuse me, the release that they're shooting. So it's kind of a standard for us here. And if you guys didn't know, today is the final day to vote.
'Tis election day.
So, a lot of craziness going on. We'll see what happens very soon.
Voila.
Leveled. And we set all of our, pretty much all of our rests at 13/16.
Yes.
Per the manufacturer specs, and that seems to tune very well. So if there's any odd tears in our paper, we know our arrow is set up correctly. We got the right spine, it's cut to the right length. We know our bow is in time, center shot's good. If we're still getting a tear left or right, that's when we start making our adjustments in our cam, shimming the cam one way or the other, versus making all our adjustments in the center shot, throwing that center shot way out of spec.
Yep. So I've got this nifty waypoint level from Hamskea that they made, and that has a reference mark on there for the 13/16. So all you do is set it to that mark, and then you'll know. So I just got to adjust that a little bit.
And that's the great thing about the micro adjustability in these rests versus one that doesn't have the micro adjustment in it. When it comes to making those little bitty fine, because there's not much, you're not far off. you can easily twist that to move that arrow closer or further away from the riser.
Yep. And the nice thing with the micro adjust on that ripcord is it does have it marked on there too, so if you need to go in or out, it does tell you which way to rotate.
Which is important.
It's a very nice feature.
Yes. Yeah, the more I've messed with the ripcord ratchet system, the more I've really come to like it. One, it sets up very, very easy. It's very reliable from what we've seen. It's performed really well.
It has.
And typically right out of the gate, mounted on the bow, it's almost perfect.
Yeah, it hasn't been too far off from what I've noticed. Like that one right there was almost spot on. So nice feature right there. All right, so now I'm gonna get my cable attached.
This is another cool feature with the limb driven that I'm a big fan of, that it operates utilizing the limb. So we've noticed it really does eliminate any of your timing issues when it comes to your rest.
Yes.
It's very easy to set up, very fast, and field serviceable. So if that cable were to be severed, you could easily replace it in the field with 550 cord, pieces of 550 cord, a shoelace, something like that to get it back up and running. But typically you'll notice how JR has got it run about 1.5 inches from the axle.
Yeah, from your limb tip, yep. All right, so I did leave this a little bit loose so you can see right here, you have that little bit of play in your launcher. So all you gotta do is hold your launcher down, ratchet it, and that takes all that take up for you right there. So nice and super easy, super fast.
Super fast, super easy. Now
we can go shoot it through paper. Ready to shoot it now. We got it set at 29.5, should be roughly about 70 pounds, and I've got this 300 spine Sonic. Not bad. Little bit knock left, just a smidge.
Okay, so what would you do with this? So we've got maybe 1/4 inch knock left. Would you make your adjustment in the rest, or would you go ahead and shim those cams?
I would prefer to shim it.
Okay, so we're going to put this in there. We're gonna bust these axles out, swap these shims.
Yep.
And fix that tear, because typically, what would you say with fits in?
If it's like an 1/8 inch, I would have no problem moving the rest, because you can really deviate from that 13/16 a little bit, but I don't want to go past that 1/8 inch. Yeah. So I could try and move the rest just a little bit to see if that would help, but I don't think it would. So that's where I would have to shim from here.
So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put in the press, show you guys actually how to shim one of these prime bows, which could be a little bit labor intensive, but it does make a huge difference as far as this quality of the bow being set up and the performance that you get out of it versus taking and just smashing that rest one way or the other to fix that tear. So
Correct.
we're gonna head over to the press now and get this thing shimmed to the left.
Yep.
Left tear.
Follow the knock.
Follow the knock. Left tear, we're moving the cam to the left. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so for the prime shims, they gotta equal 4. So you can have 2 and 2 or 1 and 3. And from the factory, they come with
the 2 and 2 installed.
The 2 and 2 installed, and you'll be able to see right here.
I have little dots on the side of the shim.
Which makes it very easy if I could find the one I need. And this is going to, so you'll notice on the shims right here, we got to equal 4. So if you can see that, we've got 3 on one and 1 on the other. And we are going ahead and we're gonna swap those shims out. And it's easiest just to bust the axles out versus trying to push these in and out. It's just we found a little bit easier. And
we were not beating on a bow either.
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. We're swap these out. Go from 2 to 2 to a 1 and a 3.
And done.
Easy to. So do you always make sure the shims are the same on the top and the bottom?
Yes. Yes, it's best to do it all in one set on top and bottom.
And you can see it's a fairly easy process. It just takes a couple minutes. Go ahead and pop the axles out and replace those shims. So JR, as far as shimming a bow, what's your favorite system?
Probably the 220 from PSE. It's probably the easiest to do. Just gotta you set the pressure belt a little bit, but it's just very minimal pressing. You have that tool, you just pop your shim right out and you pop the new one in. I can shim one of those in like a minute.
I personally like the Bowtech deadlock cam system a lot too.
That is extremely easy.
Yeah, I like the deadlock cam system a lot. I think it's pretty easy, but yeah, the Easy 220 shim system is fast, man. And you've got quite a few options to go through, but to really fine tune that deadlock cam system, it doesn't get any easier than that.
Correct, yes, because you don't need a press or anything.
Which if you're somebody that does your own work, makes it pretty nice. But it can also get you in trouble.
It can.
We've seen that too.
It can.
Guys start twisting and turning, and before you know it, you're in a mess.
Throw that axle bolt back in and make sure all my cables are still routed correctly. Everything looks good. And let her down. Just like that, we are shimmed.
So that only took
2 minutes, 3 minutes.
very, very fast. And there's only so many options you can go with. So you know once you get that tear, if you've got two, it's got to equal 4, you got 2 dots on each side and you go to that 1 to 3, that's your only other option. So it's very easy.
Correct. All right, we are ready to shoot again. So one last check over. Okay. Here we go. And that's pretty much a bolt over there.
It doesn't get any better than that. So clearly the Ripcord ratchet, very fast, very easy to set up. Once it's set at that 13/16, that's pretty much where we leave it. It does have that really nice micro adjustable feature on it, like what you showed. Setting it to that 13/16 is very easy. Great rest.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Very quiet too. So that was one of the things we get when we do a lot of testing with our bows is we don't always put the felt on the rest right away just because we're just testing. So people are like, why is it so loud? If you put a little piece of felt on it,
So much quieter.
It eliminates all of the noise.
There you go.
So now we're gonna go and we're gonna take and put the
Epsilon.
So that's Hamskea's high-end rest that they've got out, that came out a couple years ago. Again, very good limb-driven system, and we're just gonna see when we mount it on essentially the same way, we should get a bolt hole out right out of the gate.
Okay. All right.
Let's see. All right, guys, so we're going ahead and got the Ripcord ratchet pulled off, not ripped off, and we are going to mount the Epsilon from Hamskea on here. Again, you can see there's a little bit difference in the rest. The quality, both high quality rests. I do prefer the launcher pad on the Epsilon, personally a little bit more than the Ripcord ratchet just because it's metal and it's got that rubber coating on it.
Right.
Very durable. And if you know Hamskea, Hamskea is built like a tank. All their rests are very, very durable and just hold up really well. You're gonna see if we can, same with the same D-loop and knock set.
Looks
Perfect.
I mean, we're a smidgen knock high right there. So I might just micro adjust that up just a hair.
And typically whenever you're running your arrows through your rests, are you running them right through the center of the burger hole?
Trying to stay right towards the center. A lot of times primes do like to have their center shot just a little bit higher. But generally speaking, yeah, just through the center of that burger button.
And same thing, you notice with adjustments here, very easy. Again, micro adjustability.
That should be good right there. Just a few clicks is all you need.
And the setup is the same exact way, especially with these. These are both mount to, the Ripcord mounts to the actual dovetail on the bow, and this Epsilon uses a low profile mount right off to the side. So both are very low profile. So if you run any low profile quivers or whatnot, both rests will work just fine. And the setup is the same for both of them.
Yep.
Is there any difference as far as setup that?
What do you mean?
I mean, as far as running a cable to the limb, do you have to run based off it being in an epsilon, do you have to run it further back from the rear of the limb?
No, with that, the setup, no, it's going to be the exact same. I've already got a launcher pad down here or a pad down here. I'm just going to go right to that same pad.
So you've got that pad down there. Is it critical that you run that?
It is. That way your cable cannot slide on your limb tip. So it's a good way to keep that on there, keep it in place.
Yeah, one thing I noticed whenever we've done some testing with some bows, when we just set them up kind of quickly and we don't, put that down there, you'll notice like on the ratchet that the cable will actually slide and that launcher pad will start to drift up a little bit.
Correct. And it's just general with that 1 to 2 inches from the limb tip, because that can kind of change your timing a little bit on that rest. So with that, it just depends on your bow. If you have a lot of flex in your limbs, that's where it might be better to have it a little bit further towards your limb pocket. And if you have less deflex on your limbs, you want it closer to your limb tip. And I need to adjust that over just a hair. So this center shot is just a tad bit off for this particular bow. If I can get that thing over there. That's about right there. All right, we are at 13/16. I just have to attach my cable.
Is there a particular knot that you use to secure it to the limb?
I use half hitches. I'll do like 2 half hitches just to hold it there.
Yep.
And then I would burn that excess right there. Cut it and burn it so that way it'll stay there. And then the one thing with this is Hamskea has a rebound dampener right here. So on a brand new one, what I do is I'll wrap my fingers around and I'll pull really tight to get that dampener to kind of stretch a little bit to make sure it's going to stay in place. So that way you'll have less worry about your launcher coming up.
So what's the difference in Ripcord not running a dampener and why does Hamskea run one?
So with that,
benefit?
It is. So Hamskea runs that dampener to make sure that when your launcher's coming down, it's not going to rebound. It should have less rebound with that.
Right. So it's a nice feature.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why Ripcord doesn't run one. Maybe it's internally into their rest where they don't need a dampener for that rebound. And then for Hamskea, you have a clamp that's going to hold your cable in place. I personally don't like to run the clamp just so it's one less thing to worry about. I'll do a Prusik knot style on mine to keep it all in place. And then that way I can actually let my launcher come up if I need to. If I want to do any adjustments or anything, I don't have to worry about loosening the clamp. But just for the sake of the video, we're going to use it.
I personally like the clamp.
All right, got that up. Yep, so with this extra, what I would do is I do half hitches on here to keep it all together, or do a Prusik knot as well. Nice thing with that too is you have that extra cable there, so if you need it in the pinch, like if your dealer messes up, like you're out west somewhere, you got some dealer material right there for you. Okay, and now we'll run this through paper.
All right, the moment of truth.
Got a pretty good knock right there. I'm gonna shoot it one more time because I didn't quite feel 100% on that shot either. So let me do one more shot just to double check.
So that's one of the things that people have to realize too when you're shooting through paper, how critical form is.
It is.
Because you can have a perfectly tuned bow, but if you don't know how to execute proper shot, you're gonna get a tear every time. Or if you're inducing a lot of torque in the grip, it can impact the flight of the arrow. So those are things people don't realize when they come in. They're like, hey, I want to get my bow paper tuned. I'm getting a hard knock right tear. And then we go and we look at them shoot that bow. It's all in their form and technique, and it has nothing to do with the bow itself.
Correct.
It's the individual.
Yep.
So that's something to consider as well when you go into a shop, you get a paper tuned. Make sure you've practiced shooting your bow with good technique and form.
Yep. All right. Yeah, so a big thing with that is comes down to grip. A lot of guys, what I'll do is I'll stand behind people, and even when I'm shooting bows, if you watch me, I'm looking up when I'm at full draw to make sure I'm not torquing that bow. Yeah, I might have had a little bit of torque when I shot. That made it worse. So, pretty hefty knock right there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to flip shims.
So instead, are you going back to a 2 and 2, or are you going to go back to a 3 and 1 and just completely swap it?
With that 1.5 inch tear, I'm just gonna flip these shims.
So what could make the bow that's set up to the same spec, the same way, with the different rests, tear like that?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Good question, huh?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
For the people. So we see this with a lot of bows, depending on the rest that they're set up with, and depending on the shooter. Because me and JR typically get a different tear based off, I think it has to do with the release you're shooting as well, though.
It could. Yes, definitely changing releases will change your tear for sure.
Because you shoot a hinge, I shoot a button. You typically get, when you shoot my bow, a knock left tear whenever I get a perfect bullet hole. So shooter can definitely influence the tear and the release that they're using. But that's the great thing about the bow systems now, is how easily you can adjust them based off what you see through paper. You know, throw it back in the press, swap the shims again, and get it back performing or shooting like it should.
Okay, we have those shims flipped, and see what we get now. And it reversed it. Now we got a, like an inch knock left tear.
2 and 2?
Yep, going back to 2 and 2s.
Oh, the fun part of tuning bows. Back and forth. You gotta love it when it works out perfectly at foot right away. But it doesn't always do that. Everything looks good, my friend.
Yep, coming down.
Moment of truth. Can we get a bullet hole out of it? Back to factory spec.
Yep. All right, here we go. And that's almost a bullet hole right there.
Looks pretty dang good.
We're a little bit knock low.
So go ahead and make a small adjustment in the rest.
I would move, yeah, just move that rest just a hair. Or you can play with your timing a little bit on your cables. You can mess with that a little bit.
Yeah, because you're what, maybe 1/8 of an inch?
Not even, it's just slight.
That's where micro adjust comes in versus non-micro.
Yep, it does.
So it's interesting how the shims or the rests being set up the exact same way, same knock set, same D-loop, nothing was changed there. The rest was just mounted on to spec 13/16, but you still had to make adjustments in the cams in order to get a shoot a bullet hole.
I did, yep.
Yeah.
Move 4 clicks.
And I'll tell you that if you don't have micro adjustment and you're making those small adjustments in whether it's elevation or windage, and you move it wrong too much and you're trying to get it set back, you can be chasing your tail.
100%. All right. Ah, there we go. I made that adjustment and about perfect right there.
So easy day.
A little bit of adjusting here and there, get you good.
And that's the great thing about these rests with the adjustability and going with a high-end rest like a Hamskea or a Ripcord, QAD, whatever you end up going with, is the adjustability that you get in them and the micro adjustability that it comes along with it. One, both these rests are very robust, very durable. Hamskea being known as built like a tank. But they both have the same features and very similar, the setup process and everything. We set everything up 13/16 from the riser. We make sure it's level. We put knock sets in on our strings just for that reference point too, and to eliminate knock pinch.
Yep.
Because knock pinch is another thing that could impact the flight of the
Very much so.
So there's a lot of little things to consider, but you can't go wrong with either option, I don't think. I personally like the Hamskea, the launcher pad, a little bit better. I just think it feels a little bit more robust, a little bit more durable versus the plastic, but we've seen it had really, really great results from the ratchet itself.
100%.
And obviously, you threw it on there.
Tuned super easy.
Tuned like that.
Super easy. Another thing I really like with Ripcord is their arrow keeper that comes with it.
Oh yeah.
That is a really nice option. It's got the 3M adhesive on it, so it adheres really well to the shelf of your riser, and it just works really well to keep your arrow in place.
It does, because the one that Hamskea comes with is just a little rubber piece, and it doesn't stick to the riser very well. We typically have to use like a glue in order to keep it there, but the one from Ripcord is long. It covers the whole shelf almost, so you don't have to worry about your arrow dancing around and making a lot of noise.
Correct.
And the other way I eliminate that, I don't run either one of those. I run that stealth strip that you showed me on the inside of my riser, and that thing is quiet. So great options. Can't go wrong with either. Both of them are very similar in price point.
Yes, they are.
And both great companies to work with. Both great customer service, and they really back their products.
They do.
So, JR, what do you think? What are you shooting?
I do have the Epsilon on my bow, but I've been using that since it came out. If Ripcord had the ratchet 2 years ago, I might be shooting the Ripcord.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the system. It's really cool whenever you do get a little bit of stretch in that cable. You can just hold that launcher down, twist it, lock it in place, and you don't have any issues. There it is, guys. So, as always, we appreciate you guys following along. JR, he's back in. We finally got him back on the camera. He did a fantastic job walking us through the entire process of how we operate here in our shop, setting a bow up in the time it takes. And obviously did a fantastic job because we got bullet holes out of both of those by making a few adjustments, more so in the bow than the rest themselves, right?
Yes.
So let us know. Drop some comments. What rest are you guys shooting? What's your favorite rest? What else you got, JR? Anything good?
That's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys in the next video.
That's it. Appreciate you guys.